Well, hi everyone. I'm John Rickland, back with another ranking video. And this is every Vince McMahon WWE pay-per-view match ranked from worst to best. 19 in total. I'm including tag matches. I'm even including the 1999 Royal Rumble. Vince McMahon did not wrestle often. Kind of makes sense because he was in his mid-50s when he started wrestling. And I'm not including TV matches, obviously. Hence the pay-per-view, cap on here. But he didn't have, the best track record on pay-per-view you might think. Except quite a few of these actually were better than you would expect. Now, a lot of these were him as a heel getting the shit beat out of him after he would, get the crowd all fired up and everything. But there were also some duds, as you're going to get with any of these ranking videos. And I would love to know what you guys think in the comments. Also, should I do one on, Shane McMahon's pay-per-view matches? Because that list might take a while because he's competed a lot more than people might think. But anyway, with that out of the way, 19 matches in total, and there might be some rants included, don't worry, but let's try to just have some fun with this list. So number 19, Vince versus Bret, Mania 26. I love Bret. I love Bret so much. Why did this match happen? I know why it happened. It was Bret getting revenge for the Montreal Screwjob, but it took about 4 years for the match to get started. And then Bret just needlessly beat on Vince for, ever with a chair, which made sense. He was beating the shit out of him, like one chair shot for all the years, or every time that he felt screwed over, all the angst, all the anger and stuff like that. But Bret also had a series of health problems, including a stroke, a debilitating stroke, and he had a Lloyd's of London insurance policy where he couldn't take any goddamn bumps. So you just had a match where he basically beats the shit out of Vince, and it wasn't very good. And it's sad how this is the last official WrestleMania match that Bret had. And it's actually Vince's last pay-per-view match. Because he would not have anything else after this. He would either get taken off TV by the Nexus. He would have a couple TV matches, like one he had against CM Punk in, I believe, 2012. And there were some other things, but he never had another pay-per-view match after this. And it probably was smart because he was, well above, he was in his mid-60s by that point. But this match was really bad. So just getting that out of the way, this match really sucked. And we go to number 18. Vince, Shane, Umaga versus Lashley. Backlash 2007. Vince McMahon made himself the WWE ECW champion. Vince McMahon made himself the ECW champion. If you thought that anybody else was a bad ECW champion, nope, Vince McMahon was the worst. Still wasn't as bad as, Vince Russo being world champion or Jinder Mahal being WWE champion, but Vince McMahon basically was shading on everything that ECW had done, which already they had completely buried anything that could have been ECW-like with that promotion by that point. Lashley wasn't a very good champion either, but this is also about Vince getting his revenge, the Battle of the Billionaires and stuff like that, which you may notice that match is absent. Because him and, the pig-faced dumb orange fuck, Trump, are not, were not officially in the match. Despite the fact that it looked like, two dumb old diapered men trying to battle it out and everything and doing a whole bunch of stupid shit. And Trump using his tiny hands to try and beat down Vince and whatever. Vince got his head shaved and he wanted revenge on Lashley. So, yeah, he wins the ECW championship. It was bullshit. What was also bullshit was number 17. Vince, Umaga, and Shane versus Lashley, Judgment Day 2007. Lashley wins quickly, but because he pinned Shane, Vince McMahon's like, nope, just because you pinned him, you don't win the ECW championship. This feud went on seemingly forever, and actually it was only 5 weeks, 6 weeks, something like that, and it was dog shit. It was fucking dog. I can't believe they extended this to another pay-per-view. Because then they had Vince versus Lashley, and they had all shenanigans and everything in One Night Stand 2007, and this is our number 16th entry. And Lashley finally won, which he should have, because they had a whole bunch of bullshit with Umaga and Shane and stuff like that, and it was it was so fucking crap. But Lashley wins, thankfully, thank fucking to Christ. And then they do that thing where they have Vince being all depressed and the limo explosion and all that, and why did they think the Vince McMahon is dead storyline was a good idea? Why? Why was 2007 so weird? Oh yeah, the Benoit incident, which actually nullified the Vince McMahon exploding storyline. Oh well, at least he was no longer ECW champion, but he was one of the longer running ECW champions. Seriously, take a look at the ECW championship reigns, including all, from the OG ECW. And you might be surprised how long Vince held the championship compared to other people. It's actually rather frightening. Number 15, the 1999 Royal Rumble, where Vince and Austin were, 1 and 2 and stuff like that. Well, Austin was number 1, Vince was number 2. And just, it was so stupid. It was so fucking stupid. It was so bad. This is the worst Rumble ever. The worst Rumble. And again, it was built around the hot Vince McMahon, Stone Cold Steve Austin storyline. But none of the Rumble entrants meant anything. Because we all knew what it was going to come down to. Now, had Austin won it and had Vince just tried to screw him over and say, you need to put your shot up against me in a cage match at, the following pay-per-view, okay, that might have made sense. No, Vince won the Rumble. Which I wanted to put this at the bottom of the list, but I just could not put this below Vince versus Brett. As horrible as this Rumble was, and I did do a retro review on it, it was abysmal, but I just couldn't put it below Vince and Brett. But boy, it was bad, because you had Vince and Austin do some battling. They went into the crowd, into the bathroom. Austin got laid out. Vince eventually came out and did some commentary. Austin came back out and was fighting with Vince and everything after people got eliminated. And then Rock helped, get him eliminated. And Vince won the thing. Fucking hell. So, number 14, Vince versus Stephanie, I Quit match. No Mercy 2003. Stephanie was going to get married to Triple H 6 days after this, so it was a way to write her off. Vince McMahon choked out his daughter with a pipe. Vince McMahon was just brutalizing his kid. It's not the worst thing that a wrestler did to his kid, but I digress. This was horrible. It was uncomfortable. It wasn't as uncomfortable as the incestuous storyline that Vince McMahon apparently came up with. Fucking hell. Why? Why did he come up with that? Oh, wait, because Vince McMahon is a fucked up individual. Also, Linda was there watching this and could have thrown the towel at any point. And if Stephanie quit, she would be gone from the company because she was going to get married. This was a very, very uncomfortable match. I mentioned that. Christ. Also the incest stuff. Anyway, you know what? Let's move on from this. Number 14, Vince and Shane versus Shawn and God. Backlash 2006. This is the match that actually happened. They had a spotlight representing God, Shawn Michaels, who had beaten the shit out of both McMahons already at WrestleMania 22. Despite the fact that only Vince was there, he beat the shit out of Shane as well. He couldn't, it was dumb. It was so fucking, why? Why was this happening? People say there were rumors it was supposed to be Brett teaming up with Shawn, which would have been interesting to say the least, because Brett wouldn't have been able to take any kind of goddamn bumps because of the aforementioned Lloyd's of London insurance policy that he had. But that would have been much more interesting than this. It was Vince McMahon was hamming it up and everything and being Satan himself, as JR might say. But boy, I'm not a religious person one bit, so it didn't bother me there. It was just a bad match. It was a really dumb match. And it was Vince just thinking that he can beat anything. Vince still thinks he can beat anything, even though in the current climate, he cannot beat something. But boy, this match wasn't good. But we get to things. We're going to get to a little bit better things here in a couple entries. But first, we have to get to number 12, Vince and Shane, with Finlay, Big Show, and Spirit Squad, and a bunch of other, William Regal, I believe, also. They were helping out the McMahons against DX, Shawn and Triple H. SummerSlam 2006. Wasn't the best match that they would have in their, in their series of matches on TV, or, antics and all that stuff on TV in 2006 and into the fall of 06. It was kind of, this almost was a couple spots higher, but I just remember all the interference and all the bullshit. It was too many shenanigans. It was too much crap, and I didn't really care for it all that much. However, can I understand why some people might have found it entertaining? Yes, I personally think DX is overrated, but that's my opinion, and I'm looking forward to getting shredded in the comments. But yeah, there was a lot of shenanigans and shit, and it got annoying. So we go to number 11, Vince and Shane versus Austin, ladder match for control of the company, King of the Ring 1999. Who the fuck raised the case? Who raised the case? Who raised the briefcase? Nobody knows. Nobody has a fucking clue. Apparently it might have been Big Boss Man. Who the fuck knows who it could have been? Could have been Jake Roberts. Could have been Raven. Maybe he was going to jump over from WCW. I don't know who the fuck did it. And that's one of the mysteries that I wish would be solved. Because they seemingly forgot about it. I don't understand why they forgot about it, because they could have had it where somebody who was wronged by Austin. They weren't going to make it be Rock, but maybe they could have made it be Mankind. They could have done something. No, they just decided it couldn't have been Triple H. Why in the world couldn't it have been, somebody? They never explained it. If they ever explained it, please tell me where they explained it, because I do not remember. But it was a lot of ladder spots and everything, and Shane taking most of the ones, Vince being absolutely insane. And Austin should have won, but he didn't, because it was just a way to get Vince control of the company again. And then Vince would be gone from the company soon afterwards, because they would do a first blood match, Taker and Austin, at Fully Loaded the following month, and that would be it for that. And then Vince would be off TV for all of 2 months. So we then get to number 10, Vince versus Zach Gowen, Vengeance 2003. Hands up if you forgot that Zach Gowen had a pay-per-view match in WWE. I forgot. I think he had 2. I think he had one at No Mercy 2003 as well. But yeah, this is when Zach Gowen was like a friend of Stephanie's, and it was her and God, what was it? Was it her? It was her and Zach against Brock Lesnar. No, against the Big Show. And then you had Brock come out there, and Brock F5. You had Angle, you had Angle and everybody, like Brock and a whole bunch of people. They came out like an F5 and Angle slam, and Vince tried doing stuff, hitting Angle. That was a great idea, but Zach Gowen managed to hit a one-legged moonsault, which was impressive. And he did some good shit here, including kicking a chair that lipped up and just gashed, almost scalped Vince right there. I mean, literally, like his head was gushing. It was insane. He was bleeding bad. And he would eventually beat Zach Gowen because Zach would miss a top rope, splash or, something of some description, and Vince would pin him. But my God, that was absolutely insane. Vince McMahon's record of winning on pay-per-view is a lot higher than some people might think. I'm actually very, very surprised by that. Because think about it, he won at Backlash 2007. He won the 1999 Rumble. He won the I Quit match. And a few others. He won the ladder match. It was ridiculous. So, yeah, he won here. And Zach had a pretty good showing. Zach didn't last long in WWE. He would be gone, I think, by the end of by sometime in 2004. But it is what it is. We then get to number 9, Vince versus Undertaker, Buried Alive, Survivor Series 2003. So after winning the I Quit match and bludgeoning his daughter, again, not the worst thing a wrestler has done to his kid. They should have tapped, is all I'm saying. We have Vince McMahon screwing over The Undertaker in the biker chain match in the main event of that same show. Undertaker decides to challenge Vince to a Buried Alive match and beats the ever-loving shit out of him. Just absolutely brutalizes him. Vince was bleeding like crazy, which is a great thing to do when you're around a whole bunch of dirt that's at the gravesite in the building. Great idea to get dirt in your open wound. Man, just fuck disease is all I'm saying. But anyway, Vince McMahon gets all busted open, all bleeding and all this stuff, and he's just gushing. And then eventually, Kane interferes when Undertaker tries to go with that payloader. Kane's pyro goes off. He beats up Undertaker, puts him in the grave, and then gets the dirt piled on him. So Vince McMahon wins. Vince McMahon beats The Undertaker. Via shenanigans or not, he beat The Undertaker at Survivor Series. The American Badass Undertaker, and then Undertaker would return kind of to form as the Dead Man a little bit later at WrestleMania 20 to be exact. Number 8, Vince and Shane and Big Show versus DX, Hell in a Cell match, Unforgiven 2006. Vince McMahon got his head shoved in the ass of the Big Show. I mean, if that isn't just some crazy visual that you didn't need, well, I'd sure love to know what other bad visuals you'd rather have, because that was pretty goddamn horrific. Yes, the numbers game and stuff like that, when Big Show was on the offensive, when he wasn't immobilized, the McMahons had the advantage. But eventually what ended up happening is Big Show got taken out, and a hammer got broken over, a sledgehammer, handle and everything got broken over Vince's shoulders, and he got beat. And that was the end of that. Now, that wouldn't quite be the end of the feud, but it would be the end of the pay-per-view feud. And it was what it was. But not a bad match, filled with some, bullshit and, again, the Big Show's ass being used as a weapon. But other than that, it actually was a pretty bloody affair, pretty good stuff, pretty good use of the cell, even though at times it was just like a brawl inside the cell. We then get to number 7, Vince versus Triple H, Armageddon 1999. Vince McMahon was upset at Triple H for all the shit he'd done, especially the shit he'd done to Stephanie, and he was going to get revenge in the honor of his daughter. And his daughter screwed him over. And the McMahon-Helmsley regime was born. Vince McMahon left and then came back. a few months later and aligned himself with Triple H. The storyline made no sense. So, but this match actually wasn't all that bad. It was Vince as a babyface, oddly enough, battling the evil heel Triple H, and then Stephanie screwed Vince over and did all that. Oh, Stephanie's like, Dad, did you forget what you did when you had me kidnapped and almost sacrificed the Undertaker? Remember that? The unholy wedding, the black wedding. That was a great idea. So anyway, match though wasn't all that bad. Pretty good battle, or pretty good brawl. Number 6, Vince, Shane, Triple H versus Rock, Taker, and Kane, King of the Ring 1999. Okay, maybe this is ranked a little bit higher because of just how wild and chaotic it was, because Vince would play hit and run a lot because he had, it was whoever got pinned, that person pinning them would win the WWE Championship. Triple H was the champion at the time, having just won the title back at Judgment Day the month before in the Iron Man match that featured the return of Undertaker and a lot of time that, had needed to be stretched out because they were like, oh shit, we didn't time this well at all. That aside, now the whole thing was, it was Linda McMahon, I believe, in charge. Well, no, it was Commissioner Foley in charge of the company because Linda McMahon had put him in charge because why the fuck not? And what happened is they made this match. Now, Vince got in a few shots and everything, but of course would be the brunt of a lot of the offense. And probably the most memorable part of this involved a McMahon, but not Vince. It involved Shane getting chokeslammed from the top rope by the Undertaker all the way through the announcer's table, where he took him and literally did this. And the crowd just absolutely lost their goddamn shit. I lost my goddamn shit when I watched it on pay-per-view. But it was something where it served its purpose and would fracture Vince and Triple H as far as any kind of friendship they might have, because Vince would be the one costing the fall, because of course he had to be, because Vince would have to be the one to take the pin. It would either be Vince or Shane, because why would you pin Triple H when you could have the out of Triple H saying, well, I never lost the championship, but them's the rules. But yeah, that chokeslam that Shane took, fucking hell. But Vince held up his own here. Number 5, Vince versus Austin, St. Valentine's Day Massacre, 1999. The only St. Valentine's Day Massacre. Probably a good thing because there were only about 3 good matches on there and the rest of it was shit. But this was a cage match where the Royal Rumble, win was on the line, or, the spot. Basically the spot in the Mania main event. Vince McMahon had relinquished his spot, so Stone Cold Steve Austin got it, but wanted a match with Vince in a cage. This also featured the debut of Paul White. This also featured Vince taking a bump where he didn't quite clear to the announcer's table like he thought and broke his goddamn tailbone. Really hurt himself. You could tell he hurt himself. And he's a gamer. He did a whole lot of shit, but boy, in only his second pay-per-view match, he broke his goddamn tailbone. It was pretty fucking entertaining. But that was a little bit scary. And then again, Paul White debuts and, hurls Steve Austin at the cage wall that breaks open, and then Austin drops to the floor. Great debut! But yeah, Vince took a pretty hard bump there, and credit to him for that, and kept coaxing Austin back into the ring. So it was pretty well done. Number 4, Vince versus Hogan, Mania 19. What do you get when you take a bunch of steroids, a couple old guys that, probably have some racist opinions and some opinions on people that they probably shouldn't have, because you shouldn't hate people just because of who they are or what color skin they have, and put them in the ring with a bunch of weapons. Why you get this? A match that is shockingly better than I thought it would be. This match is by no means great, but Vince McMahon does a leg drop off the ladder. We get a lead pipe involved. We get Vince McMahon rising up over that and blood across his face, and just that great visual where Vince literally looked like he was rising out of the pits of hell. And Hogan would eventually win because his career was on the line, even though he would then get sent home, paid, and then come back as Mr. America. Oh dear, Mr. America. We really don't need to be reminded of Mr. America, or Miss America, to be honest. But anyway, Hogan would beat Vince, and that would be it. That would be the end of that. Pretty good stuff. They did do the run-in with the referee, Sylvain Grenier, when he was a referee before he became a member of La Resistance. But the match was fine. The match was actually pretty damn entertaining. That leg drop off the ladder, sweet Christ, whatever I'm trying to say, that leg drop. Number 3, Vince vs. Flair, Royal Rumble 2002. Oh boy, this was fun. You had all the Flair family there. Flair was actually surprised Vince wanted to work with him because they were building up this whole thing of being co-owners and stuff like that, and then facing off in Atlanta. And Flair was getting a pretty good pop. Of course, he's Ric Flair, but the whole backing of WCW, as that company had just folded the year prior. And Vince beat him up for a bit, and then Flair would make his comeback. Vince would use the camera, the Flair family camera. I think it was Charlotte, well, the future Charlotte, but Ashley, her actual name, because this is before she got into wrestling, and before she looked like a Ric Flair real doll with implants. Anyway, enough meanness. Let's talk about how she used the camera and was like, taking pictures and stuff like that. And then Vince was taking pictures of Flair, and there were all these, these pictures floating around. It was kind of funny, but then Flair would make his comeback and chop Vince, and Vince would be bleeding, and they would have some good, of course, Flair would be bleeding. Of course, he'd be bleeding. Why wouldn't Flair bleed? But there was some good stuff on this. And then Flair would eventually make Vince tap out, emphatically to the figure four, and it was some pretty good stuff. And then Flair would face Undertaker at Mania 18 in one of the most underrated WrestleMania matches I've ever seen. Had to get that in. So, number 2, Vince versus Shane, Mania 17. It's not number 1. I wonder what number 1 is. Do the math. But this was right after WCW had been purchased by Shane, and it was a way to continue the WCW-WWE rivalry, despite the fact that they had the C team from WCW. The C team does not stand for championships. It stood for C Squad. So this match shouldn't have been as entertaining, but you had so many storylines going into it. Stephanie having Trish as her personal assistant. Trish wanting to please Mr. McMahon. Linda McMahon being in a catatonic state, drugged up and everything because of the stress of Vince wanting to divorce her had sent her into said catatonic state. And then Vince would make out with younger women in front of her. What the fuck? But then Mick Foley's a special guest referee, got all this stuff. You got Linda being brought out there sometime afterwards, where Shane had tried for an elbow drop through the announcer's table and then got wiped out. And they did a whole bunch of stuff where Linda's out there, and I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it. But Vince is beating the shit out of Shane. After that, Trish tries to help Vince and then slaps him. Trish and Stephanie get into a cat fight and then get up the ramp, so they're done. And Vince is beating up Shane. He puts Linda in the ring. She does a great job playing, a catatonic zombie. I mean, basically she is brainless. She, works for Trump, so why wouldn't she be brainless? Anybody that works for that idiot's brainless, but I digress. He puts her in a chair and beats Shane in the head, and he's having to fucking tell her, because she's not a natural performer at all. Like, having to basically tell her, when this is happening, because he hits Shane with one trash can, throws it, almost hits the announcers, or maybe that was the second garbage can, but then he's saying, yelling at her or whatever, play more where that came from, hit Shane with another garbage can, threw that one out, and then saying, third garbage can, watch this. He goes a raise, and I get goosebumps just thinking about just with how loud the Astrodome got. Linda McMahon stands up, she was never drugged. And just, that's easily one of the biggest pops in WrestleMania history. But she rises and Shane's like this, and the funniest thing about this is Vince is holding, he's holding the thing up above his head. He's holding the garbage can above his head all this time. And Linda's like this, and he's having to look down like, are you going to kick me? We're in front of a pay-per-view audience, Linda. And she kicks him in the groin. And it took an eternity, but it was fucking great. And then Shane eventually beats him. It was some pretty good. Foley gets involved in the Mandible Claw. It was some pretty damn good stuff. And Linda was happy. But that's just always something that makes me laugh. But number 1, it's Vince versus Shawn at WrestleMania 22. Come on. It was Vince getting the shit beat out of him, where even though he did get some shots in on Shawn, this is building up since before the Royal Rumble 2006, where it was, I believe Vince said on a Raw, Shawn, I screwed Brett. Don't make me screw you. So anyway, what happens? Well, the Spirit Squad runs in, and then JR's commentary is great. I might have to talk a little bit longer on this, but they get the megaphone out, or that weird, old school megaphone, and they bring it in, and JR's just hitting them over the head. It's like, yeah, bring your megaphone again, you idiots. Give Michael a weapon. The funniest line though had to have been when Vince McMahon was on the Muscle and Fitness magazine, had a poster there, and Shawn got pissed and beat him up, and then he took that and he was about to hit him, and then JR says, yeah, hit him in the head with a B, hit him, and then shove it up his ass. Oh God, the commentary made me laugh. It was great stuff, though. Shane would eventually interfere, his Singapore cane shot, he would do some stuff. But then he would get handcuffed. Vince McMahon would get, hit with a ladder. He would get hit with a chair shot that literally sounded like a rifle shot. And if that didn't butt Vince open, I don't know what did. I think it might have been the ladder shot. But yeah, Vince McMahon was bleeding. He got the shit beat out of him. He got a garbage can put over him, put it on a table. Shawn jumped off a really tall ladder, hit the Sweet Chin music after the medics tried to get to Vince, and pinned him 1, 2, 3. And it was really good shit. And it is Vince McMahon's crowning achievement at WrestleMania, getting the absolute shit beaten out of him for about 20 minutes. But it was really goddamn good. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Ritlin. I'll see you soon.